Welcome back to the channel, Tabletop Tinkerer. This is the Tabletop and I'm the Tinkerer. Let's get into it. The thing that I want to talk to you about today is increasing your fun at the table. Now, so far this has been a D&D channel. My focus is going to be D&D for the most part because that's the game I've played the most of. However, these concepts I do believe transcend into other tabletop games, and as you play other games besides D&D, you will find these to be more and more true and applicable universally. So there's several different ways to look at this. There are the mechanical crunchy things, and then there's the more story-based things that we do as players, and ways that we look at our characters that can enhance our fun with them in the game. Most of the things that I'm going to bring forth today are going to be more story-based, and then at the end there is a way to look at things mechanically that will also help you increase your fun at the table. When it comes to your character itself, I like to look at optimizing the story versus optimizing the character, meaning not its stats, not its approach to combat, etc., not how effective it is there, but what I know about it story-wise. Why is it here? If you can answer the question of the why is this adventurer going out on these adventures, it's going to increase your fun tenfold. The reason being, you now have a reason. There are stakes inherently in everything that you do, every quest that you take. You have to think about, well, how does this line up with my overall goal as a character? That is not to say that you should take your opportunity when forming a character and creating a backstory to create the manuscript of a book which acts as a prologue for your character. That's not what I'm talking about. That's not what's needed. In fact, it is the opposite of what you need to do. That doesn't mean you can't have details. You certainly should have details as to family ties, maybe some friends. Maybe they have names. Maybe you leave that up to your DM. If, say, your father is the leader of the village, that's probably where you should leave that, which leads into my next point, leaving questions in your backstory that you don't even fully know, or perhaps that you will be informed of by your DM before the start of the game, but questions that will be filled in by your DM. The reason being, your DM is the one that is making the world. You are making a character in the world. If you get too fleshed out with the character, you may run into some conflict between the lore you have created surrounding your character and how the lore of the world that your DM has created actually works. Example being the leader, because you may paint your father a certain way, and that may not be an effective leader in the location, in the society, in the culture that your character originates from. That is all things that are up to your DM. Questions can create a lot of intrigue and opportunities for your DM to write your character into the main storyline very easily. And I thought of an example earlier today. Say your father is a farmer. Your whole family is farmers. Your father falls into a deep depression or takes that a whole nother step further and can't get out of bed, can't provide for the family because the crops have stopped growing. And that's his whole purpose. He has lost his sense of purpose. He can no longer provide for the family. So you take that opportunity to go on adventures. It's not really your character taking opportunities. It's you as the player creating opportunity for your character to go. But your character decides, I need to provide for the family. I will go on adventures and do tasks for other people that will pay us so that way I can support the family. Now, you could fill in that gap of saying why the crops went. Well, locusts appeared. A swath of locusts ravished the land, and now there's no crops. Well, I guess you just have to go beat the locusts, and then everything will be okay, and that's okay for a low-level adventure, but what are you going to do after that? Hard to say. Or you could leave the question open, and your DM can go absolutely buck wild with possibilities as to why the crops are not growing, all the way up to and including dark and evil magic that is influencing the land around you, sucking the land dry of its ability to produce life. About 1 million stories can come out of that concept right now. But leaving questions like that and holes will allow your DM to write you into the story and give your character more of an ability to care about what's going on. And if you go on an adventure like that, it's pretty cut and dry why you would form a bond with and continue to help the people that helped you take out the reason why your farm no longer has crops to grow and why your father fell into this deep depression and is now able to get back to work. You feel like you owe him something. You've created a bond. Among other things, this is just one example of many different things you could come up with in your backstories. So leave questions, for sure. Leave questions. And then allow your DM to fill those in and surprise you. You don't want to know everything about your character and their backstory and everything that's happened. That mystery adds a lot of fun when you find out about it at the table. It'll give you that, what? You want that. I promise you. You want the what. The what is prominent. It is powerful and palpable when you experience it at the table. And you can't know that if you know every single thing about your character's backstory fully and thoroughly. The other thing you can do on a conceptual level to increase your fun at the table is try to do things that don't work. You may be looking at different concepts and go, well, they don't work together, so I can't do them. I offer up a different way to look at it. Not, well, they don't work together, so I can't use them. These don't appear to work very well together. What outside piece could I add into the story of the character to make them work? I will give you an example, another one. One of my favorite characters that I have ever played is a barbarian artificer. That doesn't make any sense. A barbarian that's an artificer. Barbarians are known to go crazy and rage. It's a whole tenet of their class is that they rage. Every single barbarian rages. And artificers are intelligence-based tinkerers that use their brain to solve problems. Okay. Looking at the subclasses, though, you can kind of start to see how you could fuse something together to make them work. You just have to do a little bit more digging. Don't dismiss ideas just because on the surface level, they don't work so well. So say you're an artificer that uses their tools to dive into dungeons. You have a knack for history. You're a bit of an Indiana Jones type. And we'll leave it at that. Well, in your travels and in your journeys and adventures, low level up to a point because you're starting the campaign. Granted, this will be at level 3. So if you're starting at level 3, great, works out. Otherwise, over time, it's becoming more apparent. More story will be had from this. The ancestral guardian path of the barbarian can be tweaked ever so slightly to where the dead have recognized that you have a knack for preserving their history. You come in and you save their stories and give them new lives by continuing on their history in museums and people that will actually care and respect these artifacts. Well, those ancestors aren't necessarily your ancestors, but they're giving you the same powers. You're getting powers from the grave, essentially, of the ancestral guardian path. Now those two can work together pretty seamlessly. Story-wise, we have a reason why these things would come up. So I would just encourage you to, if there are things that you look at and you go, well, that'd be cool, but it doesn't make a lot of sense, find a way to make it make sense. That's where you come in. The designers have given you these things that you can add to your character. Come in and add that extra glue, that extra piece, that joint that will bring everything together and make an idea that shouldn't make sense, make all the sense, and be a lot of fun to play because you've never played a character like this before. You maybe haven't seen a character like this before. It may be unique. Otherwise, you're just a fighter, which is fine and it's fun. Or you can add that extra flavor and flair, and that will inform your character. And when your character is informed, you'll hear me say this multiple times throughout many videos, when your character has informed decisions to make, it's a lot more satisfying and fun, and you don't have to spend as much time thinking about, well, what do I do in this situation? That will just come. The final thing I want to touch on here is a more mechanical thing. And to a degree, the aspect of taking things that shouldn't work together, getting them to work together, does take some more crunchy things to know. For example, you have to have a barbarian with at least a 13th intelligence, 13 points in intelligence, rather, to make that concept work, or vice versa. It has to be in strength and constitution, etc. There's ability score things to determine when doing multi-classes, etc. However, I want to talk about maximizing your action economy. there are different names for the different things that you can do in combat, which takes up a good chunk of the game we play. It's not the only thing, and I like to focus on the story, which will help the combat be more fun. But there are things to consider in the combat, and that comes down to the action economy of actions, bonus actions, free actions, and the often forgotten by some players, reactions. Reactions. Don't forget them. They don't happen as much as the other ones, but they're just as important and can provide just as much fun. And in fact, if you're doing it right, you could do one every single turn. And you should be. I really think you should be. And if you're not, you're wasting potential for more fun. The more fun you have at the table is going to include you doing more things. If you leave action economy on the table and you aren't making the best use of every action, bonus action, free action, reaction, you're not having as much fun as you could, because there are more things that you could be doing. The more things that you do, the more fun you will have. So when I make a character, or as I go through leveling up, I'm not looking always necessarily to how do I make this character more optimized and mo better. I look at this character of how can I get him to do more things that I can't currently do and do them more often. How can I increase my level of fun at the table? How can I increase how much I engage with this story or this combat? So if you don't have much to do with your bonus action, the next time you level that character up, make sure it is to add a bonus action to your character. And then the amount of various choices you have with 5e get narrowed down a little bit, and you have a more clear idea of what you want to do. The same with reaction. If you don't have a reaction besides attack of opportunity, and I've seen characters that never take reactions because they're in the back and they just don't take attacks of opportunity because they're not having people leave their sphere of influence. I promise you, if you include that in your character, you're going to have more fun because you're going to be doing more things. You're going to be doing things not on your turn, and it's going to make you pay more attention and engage more when it's not your turn, because you're going to wait for that reaction to come up, because you're going to want to make sure that you use it when it comes up. You've invested your character into it to do that, so you better pay attention and make sure that when it comes time that you can use that reaction, you say it out loud and say, I use my reaction to X, Y, and Z, and it goes off. And it's a lot of fun, and it's fulfilling. And it adds for a great time. The more you can play the game, the more fun you're going to have. The less you sit on the sidelines and are involved in it, you're going to have more fun with it. And with that said, that's the last gear I have to turn for right now. If you enjoyed this conversation, please let me know by liking the video below. And if you want to know when the next one's coming out, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And I'll see you again when the shop's back open.